Russia's military operation in Ukraine and the consequent economic embargo of Moscow by the West is the largest upheaval in the world politics since the end of the Cold War. The result will be a complete reformatting of the country's foreign economic relations and its economic model, as well as Russia and the US sinking into a protracted military and political confrontation in Eastern Europe. I'm your host Collins and welcome to Nomadpedia. In today's video, we'll consider China's position as the right mediator in the Ukraine crisis. The Chinese position on the Ukrainian crisis was expressed to the fullest in a telephone conversation between its foreign minister Wang Yi and a number of his European colleagues. In the brief, it boils down to 5 points. Point number 1. China believes it is necessary to protect and respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. This signals a direct support for Ukraine if only it acts as a sovereign country and does not allow anti-Russian influence to have absolute control of its government. Point number 2. China stands for common, sustainable and comprehensive security. The security of some countries cannot be enhanced at the expense of others by strengthening or expanding military blocs. Given the 5 waves of NATO expansion, Russia's legitimate security demands must be taken seriously and properly responded to. This points out the US double standards. Once upon a time, the US almost invaded sovereign Cuba for hosting Russia's missiles, so why seek to do the same to Russia in Ukraine? Point number 3. China is closely monitoring the situation in Ukraine, and what's happening there is not what it would like to see. The parties must exercise restraint, avoid escalation, and prevent a humanitarian crisis and the deaths of civilians. While the US and its allies have been flooding Ukraine with arms, China has sent several humanitarian relief packages to Ukraine, more than any other country has done so far. Point number 4. China supports any diplomatic effort that could lead to a peaceful solution of the Ukrainian crisis. China welcomes direct dialogue between Russia and Ukraine. The Ukrainian issue has a complex historical context, he said. Ukraine should be a bridge between East and West, not a line of confrontation between great powers. China also supports EU-Russia dialogue on European security. As rightly said in one of my earlier videos, we discussed the creation of the Ukrainian state after the First World War, and it was specifically supposed to be a neutral state and a bridge between East and Western Europe after several wars. You can find the link to this video in the description. Point number 5. The UN Security Council should play a constructive role in resolving the Ukrainian crisis and avoid actions that could exacerbate points of contention. In my opinion, this point says it all. The UN didn't show more concern towards enforcing the Minsk Agreement, which was made international law in UN Resolution 2202 of 2015. By so doing, has no right to criticize Russia unless it's simply acting as a pro-Western organization. And finally, China has expressed its regret over the ongoing tragedy and welcomes any negotiations leading to peace. The Xi Jinping government has avoided condemning Russia, while leveling veiled criticism at the West for NATO's expansion and its unwillingness to listen to Moscow's security concerns. By the way, the point is widely shared by several world leaders, including senior military and political elements in the US. who have been either blackmailed or silenced in the public spheres. Chinese officials are not calling Russia's action in Ukraine an invasion. Its state media does not publish materials that present Moscow and its president in a negative light, while in the same vein has maintained very good relations with Ukraine. But it's impossible to advise a Ukrainian government, which is more or less a Western puppet regime. If only the Ukrainian leadership will do what's best for its country and allow Beijing use its influence over Moscow to mediate and bring peace rather than doing what the US and most of its allies in a Cold War mentality has always wanted, to see that Russia is defeated and isolated. So far, China has been a good mediator by maintaining a balanced relationship with both parties in a conflict. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to get regular updates of our neutral analysis.